Nations around the world, like Canada, Australia, and many others, have a merit-based immigration system. It's a basic principle that those seeking to enter a country ought to be able to support themselves financially. Yet in America, we do not enforce this rule.
Okay, there's the president talking about a merit-based immigration system. That is, we want you here, you got the credentials, you're in. Very different from what we've got now. Look who's with us, very much a favorite of this program. He's laughing already. That will be the best-selling author and syndicated columnist Mark Steyn. You know, Mark, if it was a merit-based immigration system, neither you nor I would be here at this point, and that's a fact, is it not?
Speak for yourself, Stuart. Look, I will say this, that a gentleman at Homeland Security told me a couple of years ago I had to go down and have my eyeballs photographed yet again because the United States government, it's like Andy Warhol's Marilyn Monroe pictures. The United States government can't get enough pictures of my eyeballs. But Neil from Homeland Security told me that, in fact, they'd been instructed to waive even the paperwork fees, so that if you've got someone who gets across the border and they haven't got $30 to file the form or $200 to file the form, that's all waived. So we're getting much lower skilled immigrants than Australia particularly, which is my favorite of these systems.
Well, they have a point system, don't they? I'm familiar with the Australian system and the Canadian system. You notch up points. You've got to reach a certain number of points and then you're in. But it's very intrusive. They can actually tell you where you're going to live in your adopted country. That's my understanding of it. You want it like that here?
Well, the point is that immigrants are supposed to be of benefit to the existing citizens of that nation. The purpose of immigration isn't just to say, we've got a great country here, so why don't you guys come and live in it? The point is that they should be of benefit to the existing citizenry. There are 1 billion people in the developed world and about 6 billion in the rest of the planet. So only 1/6 of the rest of the planet has to decide it would like to move into Europe and North America and Australia and Japan, which doesn't have any immigration at all. But only 1/6 of the planet has to decide to move to the developed world, and then it's all over and it's gone.
Yeah, it's a perfectly rational system that President Trump wants to introduce. But look, I want you to look, please, at the congressional schedule here. First order of business is the repeal and reform of Obamacare. Then it's tax cuts. I think it should be the other way around. I think it should have been tax cuts first and foremost. What says Mark Steyn?
Yeah, I think tax cuts should come first because that's easier. My concern about Obamacare, the problem with American health care, and Obamacare was the kind of icing on the cake of it, is that it's piled one postulating carbuncle on top of another postulating carbuncle. So the whole thing is incredibly complicated, bureaucratic and expensive, and millions of people can't actually understand it. They get all this junk from Blue Cross Blue Shield all week long. They can't understand a word of it. So I think it's going to be much harder to get a clean, simple replacement health service. And I actually think Donald Trump is ahead of the Republican Party on that. I think he's actually got more ambitious plans as to what the final result should be than Paul Ryan and co. So I think that's slightly more complicated. But we can't simply pile on another postulating carbuncle to the Obamacare mess.
But the ball is in the Republicans' court at this point, isn't it? They've got to pass repeal and reform and replacement, and they've got to do it quickly, but they're split. There are at least 2 plans that I know of for replacing Obamacare, and I don't see many signs that they're actually going to get together. That, I think, is a real problem.
No, and I think the Republican base will be furious with them because they basically run on Obamacare for the last 7 years now. That's basically what the Republican Party has been running on. Now suddenly they're surprised that they got to do something about it. There's a credibility factor there, and in that sense, Trump is ahead of them, and Trump doesn't want to tie his credibility to the Republicans in Congress.
Yeah, there's a distance there, isn't there? But he tried to pull them together last night. How far he succeeds, another story entirely.